Hi there.
Cool.
Movie Reviews and More, the Women's Broadcast TV Network, IG247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, and WomenOnTV.tv. And so here's the special show. I've been wanting to talk to this man for the longest, a long time. The last time I saw him must have been 5 years ago. I can't even say anything. It's Shawn Edwards out of Kansas City. Shawn, tell the audience what you do, because you come with a whole eclectic ranges of stuff, and you've also done a lot of great things. Go ahead.
Oh man, I appreciate that, man. What an intro. Yeah, like you said though, I'm based in Kansas City. I've been a film critic here in this market for
20 years.
On television now, believe it or not, 20 years in July, man. July 28th, it'll be 20 years. So I've seen a lot happen. I've seen a lot of changes. Thank you. I've seen a lot of movies. The greatest thing about it is it's helped to open a lot of doors. I mean, in my 20-year career, it's enabled me to just be a part of some really incredible organizations and do some incredible things. I mean, it's funny now how this whole conversation, because of the social injustice and police brutality and this new evaluation on racism in America, I mean, it's really opened it up to where you have a lot of people having conversations about, what Black movies should we watch, or how do we examine the Black experience through film, and yada, yada, yada. Man, I've been talking about these things now for 20 years. For 20 years. I mean, if you go back to 2003, one of the things I'm most proud of is, I co-founded the African American Film Critics Association. It was a group created to help support Black journalists as film critics. We came together to sort of have an organization that addressed our issues, our concerns, to help with our elevation in the industry. That was way back in 2003. Way back in 2007, I produced a documentary on the history of Black film. I mean, this is like 13 years ago, and then followed a documentary on the history of Black comedy movies, then did Black sports movies, and then did Black romantic movies. So for 4 consecutive years, I produced documentaries on the history of Black film. So, I've been talking about this my entire career, and now you have a lot of people, they've been reaching out and touching base, and what they want to do is they want to find out, what is it like, to be Black and be a part of the corporate structure, because I work for Fox 4 News, which is a Fox affiliate. And I tell them all the time, man, it's not as difficult as people make it out to be. And I fought hard to be there because it's a platform that allowed me to share my perspective. If I'm not a part of that mainstream platform, I don't get to talk about the Black experience on film before it's like the in thing to do. I don't get to express my perspective on anything. It's unique. So I like having a seat at the table. I've been there for 20 years. I mean, it's not new, and the things I've talked about just didn't start 6 weeks ago. Like, a lot of these conversations have just started 6 weeks ago. I've been addressing a lot of these issues. Like that whole controversy with Gone with the Wind. I've written columns and I've discussed that like 2 decades ago. And so, none of this is new, and I'm glad I've had the opportunity to express my thoughts and share my opinions. So, I just want to keep moving forward. But just so people know, I've been doing it for a long time, man. So, hey, man.
Congratulations on that. And hey, Mike Szymanski joined, my fellow film critic out of Los Angeles. Mike, Shawn Edwards. I know you guys know each other.
Hey, Shawn.
Yeah. You can tell Mike's based in LA because he's outside. He's outside chilling.
Can't go to a bar.
No, I don't want you to go to a bar. I want you to stay safe and be healthy, man. You can drink beer in your house. You can drink beer in your house, and it's less expensive.
That's what I'm drinking. Hey, Shawn, congratulations on that, because I really am happy for you. There's not a lot of us, for one. And the fact that you've been able to do it in the Midwest or the Mid-South in Kansas City, of all places, when you first started, you think you were going to be there that long? Because that's not really easy. And I don't think people understand that.
No, that's a great question. It's funny.
I'm toasting you too.
Oh, thank you. No, it's funny because Well, here's the thing people always ask. When you do film criticism professionally, a gazillion people come up to me and ask me, did I go to school for that? And yeah, I studied film. Like a lot of people, I studied film in college because I had thoughts that I would become like the next Spike Lee. I went into this wanting to become a filmmaker. Yeah. I wanted to actually make movies. I mean, I do that, but I came to this wanting to be like the next Spike Lee. So yeah, I've studied film. I take this very seriously. But it was a fluke, man. I was a print journalist before I joined Fox 4 News, and there was a guy who did movie reviews and entertainment coverage for about 25 years, and he retired. So they were looking for a replacement. So the arts and entertainment paper that I worked for, one of the producers at the station was a big fan. They liked my work. They just cold called me. Wow. It was called the Pitch Weekly. They cold called me and asked if I wanted to do that. I actually thought they wanted to just hire me to write reviews, and they would have like the anchors or somebody else read them. So when I went into the meeting, I'm sitting in front of the news director and the station manager, and they were like, "No, we want you on air." And I'm like, "You do know I've never been on television a day in my life." And they didn't care. So I thought this thing would last. I thought I would do it maybe 2-3 times, and they'd be like, "Oh, this dude's a fraud." And then it would all come to an end. But you know what? I got better at it. One thing led to another, and here we are 20 years later. But it was a complete fluke. And yeah, surviving local television, I joke all the time and tell people I survived the tech bubble. I survived 9/11. I survived the recession of 2008, and I'm surviving the pandemic. I've seen it all. I've been through it all in the world of television.
That's amazing when you think about that, Yeah. So Mike, you taught at and I like this. This is why I wanted to do this show. Mike, you taught at UCLA Film School for what, almost 30 years, and then
well, I was teaching film criticism for a while, but something that Shawn said that really struck me. Roger Ebert was a friend of mine, and he's probably one of the greatest film critics in history, and
ever.
And he told me that people always ask, well, where did you go to school? How did you learn how to be a critic? And he said, fuck that. You don't need to know. You don't need to have a history of film, but you have to have an idea of how film was made. He said, take one good film history class, and that's all you need. But the trick is, how do you explain why you liked a movie, and how do you explain why you don't like a movie? And he said it is harder to explain why you like something than it is why you don't. That's why a lot of film critics, all they do is pick and say what's negative, and because it's easier to do that, right, than to explain why you liked a movie.
That's true. I man, so well said. That's so very true. I mean, describing how you like something is way more difficult than bashing something. And now we're in this whole culture. I mean, like don't get me wrong, because a lot of people like to throw around the term hate very loosely. I'm not a social media hater, but I am very cautious about social media because I think it's created a whole culture of people who do nothing but either overpraise or overbash, and true film criticism has suffered because of it.
Absolutely.
Shawn, do you remember the first junket that you went on? And then Mike, the same question for you doing that. Do you remember the first one you went on? You do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, the first television junket I did was a movie called Nurse Betty with Renee Zellweger, Morgan Freeman, and Chris Rock. Yeah, I remember that because I was like, whoa, out the gate. I'm like, you got Renee Zellweger. She hadn't won an Oscar yet, but, she was on her way. And then you had Morgan Freeman, who was incredible, and then Chris Rock, who I grew up watching. He was a star from New Jack City and everything else in between. So, yeah, I remember that very vividly. And I just, the process was crazy to me, but I picked up on it quick, and I learned that the collecting content game was very important and a big asset for me in my longevity at the station.
Mike, you remember what yours was?
It would be really hard for me to figure it out. I'd have to go back. I mean, I covered the Oscars for 20 years, actually, going there, so I know I was doing junkets before that. But it's so funny because every time the family gets together and we watch a movie, like we were watching Robin Hood the other night with Carrie Elways, I was like, oh my God, I did the interviews for that, and this happened, and that happened, and that happened. And then we watched Hot Shots, and I was like, oh my God, that's when Charlie Sheen came in, and he was so stoned he could barely walk, and then he apologized to all of us the next day. And then we watched Soul Plane, I think, with Snoop, and I was like, oh my God, that was when he passed the joint around to everybody in the junket, and was like, he wouldn't do the interview until we all at least took a toke and said, don't write about this. It was, so I have these stories of, like, from really old movies, 20-year-old plus movies, and I'm realizing, yeah, I do have behind the scenes stories about each one of them. Some of them I've been on the sets for and things like that.
Yeah, that's funny. Those are great. And those stories are even more priceless now because the advent of the smartphone really killed the cool stuff that happened. Like how you just said, Snoop was like, don't write about it, don't tell anybody. Man, if he did that today, man, people would want to take a selfie or videotape it. So, yeah, the stars don't do as much cool stuff as they did back in the day. Like, pre-smartphone industry was a lot more fun than post-smartphone industry.
Colin Farrell took us all to a strip club after the junket in Toronto. I forget. Oh, it was for Phone Booth. It was, it was for Phone Booth. And Joel Schumacher, just passed away, which is sad. But I remember that we were all there, and he looked around and he was like, y'all want to go to that strip club across the street? I was like, yeah, if we could go to a strip club with Colin Farrell, yeah, we'll do that.
It used to get crazy back. It used to get crazy back in the day. Yeah, because I remember a lot of junkets used to take place at the Four Seasons, and George Clooney would do a set of interviews all day and then just go down to the bar and buy everybody around the drinks. That would never happen today. That doesn't happen anymore.
And forget about it now. It's virus. Forget about it. It's never going to happen again. You can't even shake their hands anymore. If we were even in the same room with them anymore.
Yeah, that's over. Yeah, I don't even know how we get back to that. I mean, it's a lot to think about. I mean, the whole way the industry was covered was such an intimate setting that, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen down the road. I mean, how do you cover the industry now? How do you have a red carpet? How do you have a premiere party? How do you do for your consideration campaign? I mean, how does any of that exist now? I mean, it was nothing for a movie studio to rent out a bar that had an occupancy of 100 and would jam 200 people in there, all swarmed around some star campaigning for an Oscar. I mean, how do you do that now? It's not going to happen.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So, Shawn, you would come in from the Midwest or Mid-South, right. And then you might do 3, maybe 5 junkets in one weekend. Yeah. I always felt bad for you guys because people didn't realize this. You might have stepped off a plane, might have been lucky to check in at the Four Seasons or the Hilton or whatever, and then had to be shuttled to a screening. And I was like, that's kind of rough sometimes. And then you'd have to be going back on a Sunday night, the beta tape at that point.
No, it wasn't rough. You know what? I tell people all the time, a lot of the movies, I would have went to go see a lot of those movies on my own, man. At the end of the day, I love going to see movies. So, I mean, I'd do anything to go see a movie. It's after a while, it's part of the gig, man. It's part of the process. You get used to it. But at the end of the day, I get to see a ton of movies that I would have went to go see otherwise. I mean, I love that. I still love that part of it, man. Just watching something new or, seeing what a filmmaker is going to do next, man. That's the beautiful part of the job.
John, I have something to ask you that I know Brian and I have talked about it, but how do you deal with the first question that the person usually asks, whether it's the director, usually it's the director or the actor, they say, how did you like the movie? And you really didn't like the movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways there's ways you could politely, like, say, hey, the easiest way to get away with it is I thought it was cool. Well, that is because that doesn't mean anything.
You can get away with that.
I mean, if you say it's like, it was okay, I thought it was cool, because I mean, you can't write it was cool in a review. That doesn't it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it makes it tough sometimes, but you politely say, hey, it was cool, it was entertaining. It was entertaining. What does that mean? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
Interesting. It was interesting.
and bad at the same time.
What do you do, Brian?
This is what I learned from Leonard Maltin. I'll never forget. We were coming out of a screening in Westwood for, you remember the Mike, in the 90s, the old Hollywood films, and Disney was always there, and Warner Brothers. And someone ran up to him, and I'm walking behind him, and I'm like, Leonard, how did you like this? He goes, oh, hold on, Brian. Someone asked him a question, Shawn, what you just said, and he goes like this: I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. I'm still digesting it. And then he goes, Brian, walk with me. I go, so Leonard, is that what you usually say all the time? Because they're always hitting you up. He goes, I say the same thing all the time. And I never forgot that. That was in 1996. I remember him saying that. And it was a bad movie. I can't remember the movie, but I just remember that. But, Shawn, you came in, you were doing TV, and Mike, you were doing print. So Mike, when you used to write for USA Today and then everything else, you were in the print room. Shawn would have the whole TV day. You might have been a Saturday or Sunday, and I was doing TV and radio. So
radio.
And sometimes I might see Shawn. Maybe I would see more Byron Allen then, but before Shawn. And then I stopped doing less TV because Shawn, I was always the small guy. I had to fight to get the TV, and I had to fight to get him for radio. But I got everybody for radio, and then so Mike will know, because sometimes he came into the radio room. Print and online, people didn't like us radio people because there was 23 of us, and you had to be quiet. We turned the air conditioning off. There was no...
You couldn't laugh. You couldn't laugh at them.
We took all that stuff. There was no laughing. There was no interjecting. And they didn't like us, but Russell Crowe would come in. We'd have half an hour with Russell Crowe. He'd lock the door on the publicist. Robin Williams would come in. He'd bolt the door because, once you made us laugh, that was it. We busted up. But we had a great interview. And, the thing about all that stuff was we got a lot of great interviews. But for TV was the premier thing to do, or sometimes print, because you were in the room by yourself for print. If you were like USA Today, like Mike was, or if you were doing Jeannie Wolf, like Mary Brown was doing, or Shep, you might be doing Fox or CBS, and then whatever. So you got those double shots. So I was always happy to see people, because this is how we got a chance to see and meet each other from different places, and it was, and those days are gone, and it's unfortunate,
Yeah, it's just it's a different climate now, and then you have different technology. It's a completely different landscape. I don't know where we go from here. I mean, everything about the industry is changing, from the way people watch movies to the way movies are covered, by the media. So we'll see. One thing's for sure, is not going to be as organic as it used to be, because we're not going to all be together ever again, I don't think.
That's sad.
Yeah. Shawn, what have you been watching? So Critics' Choice had reality awards today, or was it BET had their awards yesterday?
Last night.
How do you see all this working out? Because I can't filter it all out now.
Oh, I'll tell you one thing though. Congratulations to BET. I thought last night's virtual award ceremony was the best it's ever been. Here's the reason why. The BET Awards primarily focus on newer, younger musical artists. So when the show was live, they usually weren't quite yet seasoned musicians when it comes to performing live. The fact that this show had to be virtual allowed them to essentially just shoot music videos of their performances, which plays to their strength, which made the show better. When they had to go on stage and be live, sometimes the results were disastrous. So I actually think the format benefits the type of talent that they generally award.
Yeah.
I thought what they did was amazing, and they sprinkled in enough known artists to really kind of like connect the dots. So for every sort of like newish type artist, you had like a Jennifer Hudson, an Alicia Keys, a John Legend, a Beyonce. So it was really very bad. I give them props for what they did. That was last night, and then today the Critics' Choice Association announced the winners of the Real TV Awards, and I think that's new territory that has a lot of growth potential. These are the types of shows that are watched by millions and millions of people who aren't necessarily turning on their TV and clicking on Netflix and watching Roma or The Irishman. You know, I know the Critics Association is known for their movie awards, but this reality TV space, I mean, there's a huge fan base. There's a lot of potential there. And I know when most people think reality TV, they immediately think of the Kardashians, but this genre has evolved. I mean, some of the travel shows are really well done and very interesting. Some of the game shows are extremely fun to watch. And I'm not gonna lie, the dating shows are very entertaining. I mean, it's not all garbage. There's some good stuff there. And like I said, the fan base is there, and there's a lot of growth potential. So, and then, full disclosure, I helped produce the virtual show that we did for social media, which was hosted by Nene Leakes. It's a fun watch. It's great escapism.
That's great. Do you have any favorites? I think that naked dating one is a kind of a weird show, but do you have any favorites?
I do. I really, like a lot of people, I'm a music lover. I really like the carpool karaoke.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun. It's silly. It's brilliant. It's a great watch. I like Love is Blind on Netflix just because I just like watching dumb people make dumb decisions,
Okay. All right. So Shawn, now I know why I liked it. You just said it.
Yes,
I liked it.
Who doesn't? Every single move they make, you're sitting back on your couch like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's so.
Like, don't go in the basement, in a horror movie.
Right, exactly. It's the same sort of tropes as a horror movie. But no, Queer Eye on Netflix is fantastic, man. It's the most uplifting, motivating thing you could watch. Like, I can't get through a single episode without just bawling.
Yeah.
They've done a great job of They've done a just great job of just capturing and bottling human emotion. Like, I don't know where they find these people or uncover these stories, but it's amazing. They do a fantastic job. So yeah, reality TV has definitely evolved. It's not necessarily the Osbournes anymore. I just dated myself.
Well, dating yourself. How about going back to what was the original one?
The Real World. The Real World on MTV.
No, I'm thinking the ones where the
that was that family out of Santa Barbara.
Oh, the Loud family.
Yeah, something like that. It was on PBS.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
that was like the first reality show, but it was and I got to know Lance Loud, but he came out as gay on the show, and his parents broke up.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was horrifying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow. Hey, so Mike, when it comes to this, so we had Bai Ling on not too long ago, and we were talking about stuff, and it was good to see her out there protesting with stuff. But talk about some of those weird movies you've been watching, Mike.
Oh, well, Bai Ling's movie was Exorcism at 60,000 Feet, which was pretty pretty funny and fun to watch. But I was discovering there's all kinds of weird stuff on Amazon Prime, especially in the horror movie genre, and I think I told you last time about the one with Ron Jeremy where the aliens steal his penis. And
yeah.
And which I guess maybe we shouldn't talk about because Ron's a friend of ours and he's in a lot of trouble right now. But I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff out there, and it's a time to kind of rediscover stuff that people have always talked about. That maybe it's like, oh well, maybe I will try to sit down and watch The Crown and see why people like it, or go back and watch Breaking Bad again because you're putting the pieces together with the new show and stuff like that. But there's a lot of time, so I've been binging all kinds of crap. It's really weird. I just my latest one that I love is the 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 things that, what is it? The things that the secrets that you don't know, or something like that. It's a vampire on FX, a vampire show, and they always have cameos with like Tilda Swinton and,
Oh, wow.
and Danny Trejo, and it's a really fun. Oh God, I gotta look it up. Yeah, it's weird vampires, the vampires that live together, and it's a comedy, kind of a dark comedy, and one of them is a psychic is a psychic vampire. Like he goes up next to you and kind of drains your energy by being boring, and that's.
Hey, Mike, also, what day are you on your quarantine now?
Oh, it's 103. It's 103 days. I'm counting it from the day that LA actually shut down. So I used to call it the callous sequestration, and now I call it the semi-callous sequestration because we're half opened, but now we're kind of closing again. So
What day did LA shut down?
Well, it's 103 days ago, so whatever that was. But yeah, I just heard on our governor say that California and Los Angeles are the longest, even longer than New York, in sequestration.
Wow.
And that's how he grew his beard, Shawn.
I haven't shaved since then. Seriously, yeah.
Wow, man, yeah.
So I'll be Rumpelstiltskin.
I think I started March the 12th. March 12th. I've been
I'll tell
home
you
since March 12th.
I'll tell you the last interview that I did, and this is the day that I shut. I was doing I was at the Grammy Museum, and it was just me and one other person. We were doing John Scheinfeld. He did the ABC doc on Gary Marshall, Happy Days Are Here Again, which is on Hulu. And then he was doing Sergio Mendes. That was on a Tuesday, Shawn. And I just remember that was the last day I went to Hollywood to see a movie. And because every time I come in, I want to see one movie. And then what I did is I was on my Segway. I had an AI Segway, went to do the Grammy thing. That like come out at 10 after 9. The Lakers are playing their last game because the NBA called the season that day. NHL called the season that day, and then so did Major.
Wow.
That was February 26th, I believe. And that's when I started it for me. Wow. And then I went back to Vegas, and that was it. Because I split my time between Vegas and Los Angeles, and that's
right.
And I said, that's it.
It's been a strange, crazy ride, man. A lot of people have stopped talking to me or asking me questions about the pandemic because I've been telling everybody it's a wrap for the rest of the year. Like, I don't see anything. The people who run Warner Brothers might be the craziest people in Hollywood because Tenet and Wonder Woman aren't coming out this year. Like, stop. Just go buy a 2021 calendar and find a date. It's not happening this year.
Well, they say Bond. They say Bond's going to happen, but who knows?
I don't think anything's happening this year. It's just not scientifically or mathematically possible. And because most Americans have demonstrated such bad behavior and a disdain to this virus, it may go deep until next year because not enough people are taking it seriously. I don't understand why. I mean, I don't know if it's because our educational system's broken, or if our political system's broken, or if it's a combination of the two, but until people fully take this seriously, nothing's happening this year. Like, they're talking about trying to start the NBA and the NFL and MLB. It's not happening. And as soon as they play 2 games, there are going to be outbreaks, and then they've already
got their outbreaks again, and they haven't even started the game again, So, and I've been talking to those people. I'm like, I don't see it. So here's my question to both of you. Shawn, would you go to the movies?
No,
Mike,
not at all.
To the movies?
Well, as I told you earlier, I would only go if it's the first show of the day because I know all the seats will be clean and there's nobody else in the theater. And usually when you go for the first showing, there aren't that many people in the theater. But you know what? I can't wear a mask for an hour and a half. Forget it. I'm not going to do it.
See,
Why
my whole
would
thing
you
is,
want to, and why do you have to? There's no, but here's the problem the industry is facing. Most people have been locked down now, but let's just do the average because different cities started on different dates. But just for sake of creating an average, most people have now been locked down for 3 months. Let's just say across the board. Now we're also dealing with a whole generation of young people that this is slowly becoming normal, because if you're a child, like 3 months to them is like a couple of years. So what has happened during that 3 months is new habits have been established. New habits have been formed. And you all know the old saying, old habits are hard to break. So you have all these habits under this whole new circumstance. So you now have a whole generation of younger people who get their movie content from streaming off of a computer or a phone or their television at home. I have 2 small kids, 10 and 7, who haven't once said during this lockdown, I miss going to the movie theater. It's going to be really tough to get people to go back en masse, because now they're used to watching feature quality films on VOD, on Netflix, on Disney. It's like, how do you, and then economically, for families who have 2 or 3 kids, it makes much more sense to rent Trolls 2 for $19 than to get in your car, drive to a movie theater. Most cities you have to pay to park. I dare any parent admit that they can take 2 or 3 kids to a movie theater and walk past the concession stand and not have to buy anything. Like,
with your mask on,
to go to a movie.
With your mask on.
Not to mention, with your mask on, not to mention that before the pandemic, the theatrical experience was struggling in the first place. So, I mean, you have the theatrical experience right now has to deal with far more cons than pros. Because what are the pros right now of going to see a movie theatrically? What are the pros?
Well, I used to be really sad that there was a whole generation of people who didn't see Star Wars on the big screen, first, see that big ship coming over.
Cool.
And I remember the first time that I saw Gone with the Wind in the theater, or The Wizard of Oz in the theater, and it was such a different experience because you just see so much more. But I can see that we have big screens now at home. So and what you were saying is absolutely true, Shawn. What the theaters were doing was trying to make the theater experience more like your home, where you could bring drinks and you can have those recliner couches, right, and a lot of room and enough leg room so you can get up and go to the bathroom. And it was just it was becoming more like our living room anyway.
Yeah, and now that people are used to watching the movies in their own living room, how are you going to get them out? I mean, I don't think the theatrical experience is going to be totally dead. I mean, you're still going to have the 1 or 2 event movies a year. Like you're going to have like Avengers Endgame, where people are going to run out and go see it on the big screen. You're going to have like, a Star Wars movie, but, for most movies, I don't need to see Lovebirds on the big screen.
No.
I don't need to see Russell Crowe Unhinged on the big screen.
Or even that Pete Davidson movie. We paid $17 to see it, but that Pete Davidson movie was not.
The King of Staten Island. You don't need to see that on the big. You don't need to see the King of Staten Island on the big screen. I mean, it doesn't change anything. So I grew up watching movies on the big screen as a kid. I grew up in a movie theater. It's 2020 though. I mean, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, that's a long time ago. It's 2020, man. I mean, plus Yo, my kids, they're hooked on YouTube. The content matters. Let's be honest. The studios weren't delivering great content anyway. I mean, out of every 10 movies they released, how many were just like basic good on average? You know, you're getting one or two movies that were basic good, and then, I mean, great movies. I mean, has there really truly been a great movie in the past 2 or 3 years? Like, I'm talking about a great movie, like legitimately great. Has there been a legitimately great movie in the past 2 or 3 years?
I can't think of one.
I can't think of one either. But yeah, but what I was,
No.
I did go, I purposely went to, Lemley's Theater because I love the family chain, Lemley's Theater in North Hollywood, California. I went to go see The Irishman on the big screen because I wanted to see it on the big screen. And, they only were playing it at 7:30 at night. I'm like, this is not right. This is not fair. What about the people like us? I'm a movie whore, Shawn. I mean, I really am. I've always said that for years. I love going to get my popcorn to see a movie, good or bad.
No, yeah.
To do it,
Right.
It's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have situations like that too. I mean, yeah, it was fun watching The Irishman on the big screen. It was cool, but is it really a great movie? No.
Way too long. Way too long.
Yeah, I'm just saying it works. Everybody's got to have a hand in this. Like, the studios have got to make better movies. The exhibitors have got to understand that it's a pricey proposition. I mean, we got to all work hand in hand to save the theatrical experience. But the pandemic, man, so far the pandemic's undefeated. And I think it's going to take movie theaters down with it. I really, it's sad, but I don't see how we recover. Like I said, this new normal is setting in, man. It's setting in.
I found the name of the show. It's called What We Do in the Shadows. And it has virtually anybody who played a vampire. They mentioned Tom and Brad, but they haven't appeared yet. But Mark Hamill, Haley Joel Osment, Tilda Swinton, Evan Rachel Wood, they all have cameos, and it's really funny.
Hey, I got about 3 minutes left. Hey, so Shawn, think about this one. What is the best swag that you got, if you can remember, and what movie was it was from? Thinking about it, for me, it was either The Matrix, Mike, I don't know if you remember doing that, where we got the cell phone. That was a Matrix green cell phone. But it was also
that was cool.
That I'll never forget this, that we had Angelina Jolie in the radio room and Billy Bob Thornton were pushing 10. And it was the day before the Independent Spirit Awards, because the Oscars, I think, were the next day or something like that. I just remember that. That's what, and then Beyond the Sea, the Kevin Spacey film, they gave us plane tickets to go wherever we wanted, and I had 3 of them, because I did TV, radio, and online at that point.
Look at this dude. See, this. You know what? I'm more practical. The best thing I ever got was a pair of Converse Chuck Taylors with the Jackass logo on them, because I actually wore those to death. I actually wore those until I had holes in both pair of the soles. Right? Because they were cool because you couldn't buy them. And every time somebody saw them, they wanted them. And so, because they had that logo, like the skull and crossbones or something. It was cool. It was practical. I actually wore them.
I still have a little coffin from Freddy's Dead that could fit a little animal, and we've always thought we'd bury one of our dogs in it. But it's cool. I still have that, and I also still have the packets of like dead stuff that was from from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was like the evidence bags remember that from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? And I also have a radio that I love. It was like the Dish. Do you remember The Dish, that movie? It was God, who was it? It was
that reminds me. I got the radio that looked up from the 1930s.
They gave you a radio that with a satellite dish. Yeah. So
I remember
have that. It's about that
the radio
tall
from the 1930s from The Shadow, if you remember that had Alec Baldwin in it.
And a Kenny clock that was Kenny, from the South Park movie, and it was a clock, but it never worked.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. I do have 6 George Foreman grills. with 6 movie logos on them.
Wow.
You know what's funny?
That was hot. That was the hot gift item.
Wow.
You know what's funny? I didn't get the grill, Shawn, but I got the picture with George first, the second, and the third.
How did you not get a grill? They were giving those out like candy for a
What
stretch.
movies were they giving the grills out for? That sounds great.
You know what I was doing?
6 of them.
I was doing something with TCA then, and then so the foreman showed up, so I was the only one to get the foreman, so I got all 3 foremans.
Wow. Crazy career, man. But here's hoping everything gets back at some point. I think like this time next year we'll be back to where we were.
Yeah, when we all have the shot, when we all get the shot, whatever.
Yeah. I'm going June 2021. We'll all be back to the good old days.
Probably. Shawn, give your website. Shawn, give your website.
Oh, yeah.
You think you got coming up organization?
I know, Fox4KC.com is all the stuff I do in Fox 4 News, and then go to criticschoice.com so you can watch the Real TV Awards. We just premiered it this morning.
And what will happen with the African American one award show? Anything? Do you know?
I don't know. It's everything's up in the air right now. I mean, you know, all the award shows got pushed back to March or April, so maybe the end of February. Fingers crossed. You know. It's sad because it's a great time to hit up corporations for sponsorship. But
absolutely. And then Mike,
the pandemic is.
Oh yeah, I got my my Dachshund books on Amazon right now. That's one of the things I was doing during my pandemic. It's under my name on Amazon, and also my Mickey Ski books.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing in my spare time. Just putting.
And with that, hey, I got to thank Shawn. Shawn, you know, if you got more free time, you know, the next couple of weeks, we definitely got to have you on talking about more movies. I want to thank you so much and congratulations.
Let's do it.
Because you definitely deserve it. And I couldn't be happy.
Oh, thanks, man.
You know, and then Mike,
I'd love to do a show. I'd love to do a show with Shawn where we talk about like things we can binge on, you know, while we're still in quarantine.
Yes. All right, let's do that. Let's do that next. I got some great stuff. Let's definitely do that next.
Cool.
And one thing I learned about Shawn, he loves reality shows. I thought I was the only black guy that did. Nope, we got fellow one.
I'm human, man. I'm human. I mean, it's a lot of time in the day, man. You got to. One thing is for certain. You got to mix it up. You got to watch different stuff.
All right, for Shawn Edwards, Mike Szymanski, I'm Brian Sebastian. Movie Reviews and More. WomenOnTV.tv. The Women's Broadcast TV Network and ITube 247. Oh, and for all those who don't know, we reached 5,395,253 views today. So now we're 5 million views a day and counting it up. 24,000 this week alone. I've never had that. And then obviously 3.6 million views out of Tennessee. And for that, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. We'll see you next week.